And Chairwoman Pinto, we're just waiting on a few additional members, but since this is not a Brown Act group, if you would like to go ahead and get started with the meeting, you're welcome to go ahead and get started for keeping on schedule with our time.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and begin. I want to be respectful of everybody's time today, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the June 29th, 2022 virtual Tribal Transportation Working Group meeting. Today's the special session dedicated to addressing broadband access throughout the region. So again, I appreciate your flexibility today. As we are meeting virtual because of the recent updates to COVID-19 protocols at Sandag, the internet connectivity and the challenges brought about by the digital divide has been a long-standing issue on tribal lands, well beyond COVID-19 pandemic. The recent public health crisis highlighted and elevated the significance of internet access as essential to our daily lives. Distance learning, remote work, telehealth are all examples of everyday tasks that are critical to thrive in modern society and that require reliable and affordable internet. Recognizing this, there's been a significant effort by both the federal and state government to expand resources to improve internet connectivity and affordability. So today you're going to hear about some of these opportunities, and I really encourage you to participate, ask questions, stay engaged, so we can collectively work together to bring those resources to our communities. I'd like to welcome and hand it off to my co-chair, Senior Director of Regional Planning, Antoinette Meyer. Antoinette?
Thank you, Chairwoman Pinto. I would first like to congratulate you. I learned of your recent appointment as to the first Secretary Tribal Advisory Committee. So congratulations. It's no surprise that you were appointed to this important role. I also want to apologize for any inconvenience caused by our last minute change to a virtual meeting today. We were super excited to hold this workshop in person. I definitely believe that in-person workshops are more effective and we have better conversations. And I was extremely appreciative of Viejas for offering to host us. But for the last several weeks, we have been in outbreak conditions at Sandag. Many of our staff and their families have gotten sick with COVID, and by now we were expecting conditions to improve, but unfortunately it's moving in the opposite direction despite our best efforts to keep staff healthy. So for the time being, we have closed our offices, have all of our employees working at home, and we are conducting all meetings remotely. And we decided for the health and safety of everyone here, it was best to meet online today. So I do hope that we can have a good discussion. In this virtual environment, though, I hope you'll all be able to just participate the same way that you would if we were in person. Just a quick reminder on how we got here today. Last year, Sandag developed a digital equity strategy and action plan, and we came to this group at various points during the development of the strategy to get input. And we also had really excellent advisors from the SCTCA and the Tribal Digital Village on our Digital Divide Task Force. In December of last year, our board of directors adopted that strategy and action plan, and we've been really fast at work implementing some of those near-term priorities and actions. So I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone who's on the meeting today that our analysis showed that rural portions of the county and tribes are some of the most underserved when it comes to broadband service. And your communities pay some of the highest rates in the county for really subpar internet service. So getting tribes connected was a near-term priority in our strategy. And fortunately, there is a significant amount of funding coming from federal and state sources. And many of those funds are dedicated to tribal connectivity projects. So it's our goal, our hope that we can help prepare the region to be successful for securing those funds. Today, we want to talk about some of those near-term funding opportunities and really hear from all of you about your priorities and what we can do as your partners to support you with getting those projects funded and implemented quickly. And just really quickly before I hand it back to the chair, I learned last week that the Rincon Reservation received a significant grant from the Ntia for broadband planning work. So just wanted to congratulate them, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to hear more about that project today. So thank you, Chair. I'll hand it back to you.
I appreciate that, Antoinette. So I don't think that we have a quorum yet, but as you mentioned, Tueri, we're not going to need that We're just going to have a discussion. I'd like to review the process for the working group members who wish to speak. For the working group members, when you would like to speak, please click on the raise hand icon in the Zoom control panel. Is everybody able to do that?
Everyone who is a participant should have the ability to do that. One thing I will note that our production team told us is that if you don't see the Zoom hand icon, you should see a little button that says reactions. If you click on the reactions, that's where the raised hand icon is at. But hopefully everyone can see that as well.
Wonderful. Okay. And then you do have control of your video and mute. So please click the raise hand icon and turn on your camera when you'd like to speak, and we will call on you. And if you are representing your tribe today, please, I'd like to add it in the chat because I don't think you can change it. Most people can't change it, but if you can change it, please rename yourself by adding the abbreviated name of your tribe to the Zoom label. And if you're representing somebody else, also you can add it in the chat and let us know who you're representing. Are there any questions before we continue?
Erica, this is Ray Taran. Thanks for the kind words on the late changing of schedule. But I need to tell you, my food service department has a contract out on me now.
Oh my gosh, Ray.
I'm just kidding. We're very flexible over here, and I have a great group of people over here. So we hope to belly up sometime here in the future.
I'm so glad. Well, I apologize, and hopefully they take that contract off of you. So who wants to provide the quick reminder on how the public comments work? Is that Antoinette, is that you again?
No, Chair, this is Tuere. I'll do that. So just quickly, the public may also provide live comments during today's meeting. To provide a live verbal comment during the meeting, please join the Zoom meeting either by computer or phone. At the time for public comments, members of the public are advised to use the raise hand feature. If you would like to provide comments, the raise hand feature can be found on the Zoom toolbar for those who are joining via computer, or by entering *9 for those who are joining via telephone only. I will call on members of the public by name of those who are joining via computer, and by the last 3 digits of your telephone number for those who are joining via telephone after the chair calls on public comment. And then all comments received prior to the close of this meeting will be made part of the public recording and public record. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chairwoman.
Great, thank you, Tori. Okay, we are going to move along at this time. I would like a volunteer today to start us off in a good way with a blessing. Do I have any volunteers who are on the line who would like to start us off in a good way? Chairman Salgado, Councilman Elliott, would either of you like to start us off? Okay. So if you don't mind, then I will give the blessing this morning. Maiha, thank you for this beautiful day and for bringing us together on a virtual site. I know we're still navigating COVID, each of our communities, each of our workplaces. And Maiha, I ask you to watch over all of us and our families and make sure that we get to the other end of this pandemic. Maiha, I ask you to watch over our veterans, our elders, our youth, give our communities the guidance that we need to navigate our lives and enjoy a healthy and peaceful and a well-balanced life. So Maiha, thank you. And I appreciate everything that you provide for us. And with that, thank you. Thank you all. Now let's go on to introductions. Item number 2. We're going to start introductions a bit differently. We have Sandag staff Crystal Ayala, Chris Schmidt, and Priscilla Roldan, who will be facilitating today's workshop as they have a little bit of an icebreaker to start us off with. So Sandag staff, please start us off with our introductions.
Kat, could you pull up the presentation deck?
Sure thing.
While we pull up the deck, Chris, do you want to kick us off with staff introductions?
Yeah, let's do that. Welcome, everybody. I'm Chris Schmidt. You'll see in my name tag, it says Caltrans and Sandag, and I actually work for Caltrans as a Deputy District Director for Right-of-Way at Caltrans District 11 in San Diego. And I'm also on loan with Sandag, serving as the Digital Equity Manager, really overseeing and facilitating a lot of what we're going to be talking about here today. And with me and on my team helping me out with a lot of that are Crystal Ayala, and I'll let Crystal introduce herself.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. Crystal Ayala. I'm part of the planning department here and have been working closely with Chris and many of you throughout the last year and a half, developing our digital equity program and initiative. So excited to be here and hope that this will be the first and second of many more discussions to be had with all of you.
And then Priscilla, can you introduce yourself as well, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name's Priscilla Roldan, and I'm here to support both Chris and Crystal with everything. I'm just recently joined Sandag, but looking forward to any fruitful discussions among everyone.
Well, thanks for that. And, you know, one of the things I want to say kind of at the outset, I've been working on broadband for about 5 years. When I was working in Sacramento for Caltrans, I got drawn into the broadband discussion back then. And I will tell you, this is a complex topic, lots of nuances, lots of issues, whether those be related to technical problems, funding, partnering with public and private entities, working through just a whole host of different issues. And in the pandemic era, it has become much, much more apparent that broadband is an absolute vital public service for all of us. And so as we come together here to talk about that, I really want to encourage you to share with us your understanding, your role, and how we can ultimately work together to kind of solve the digital divide problems in this region. So one of the things we want to do today is kind of make things a little less formal and talk more openly and freely about who's on the call today and what your role is and what your experience is with broadband. And really just to get a better sense of where we're all at with this topic, because it is complicated. And we're really here to help and facilitate to solve these issues for everyone in our region. So with that, I'll turn over to Crystal here to walk us through how we want to do some introductions.
Next slide, Catherine, please. So we have a packed agenda for today's meeting. We're going to kick it off with introductions in just a minute, and then we'll have a brief overview of all of the broadband funding that is available that both Antoinette and Chairwoman Pinto mentioned in their introductory remarks. We'll take a brief break, and then we'll reconvene for the second part of the workshop where we want to have a more focused discussion with all of you on, really understanding broadband needs, near-term opportunities, and have a more detailed discussion on some of the near-term funding opportunities that are now open and available. Next slide, please. One more. I think we already went over some of those items. So I think we're going to go in round robin fashion. As Chris mentioned, we want the introductions to sort of serve as an icebreaker so that we can all get to know each other. If you could start with your name, let us know what your role is, what tribal government you're representing, and let us know how you access the internet today. Are you connected through a traditional internet service provider plan? Do you access your internet through the Tribal Digital Village, or do you use other services like satellite services? Do you use your mobile phone to connect to the internet? I'm going to ask either Catherine or Paul to kind of help us go through the roll call. Why don't we start with Chairwoman Pinto, actually, since I know you're here.
Yes, I am here, and thank you, Crystal. My name is Erica Pinto. I am the chairwoman of the Hamul Indian Village of California. We're a tribe, 20 minutes east of downtown San Diego. And I connect to the internet via Cox cable. And I also use my phone, and I feel like it's constantly glued to my hand. And I'm trying to balance myself out to get away from the internet because I could do internet overload. But it's so important that I have this access because we do meetings like this, or I'll do a telehealth, or a panel of some sort. That's what I do. I love the internet and want everybody to have full access, however we get that. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go through our list of panelists here. We have Jay Linton.
Hello, Joseph Linton from Rincon, councilman. I also have Councilman Constantino in here. And right now, we're working with AT&T to try to get internet to every household on the reservation. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. We want to hear more about the grant that you just received. So we'll come back to you in just a few minutes.
Actually, we're waiting for our IT guy to come on. He's supposed to come and inform us all more about that.
Perfect. How about Johnny Eagle Spirit?
Hauka Mahan. My name is John Eagle Spirit Elliott. I'm on the Tribal Council for the Manzanita Band of the Kumeyaay Nation. We're working with a couple of different groups to get our reservation onto the internet. We're working with Tribal Digital Village, but there's some limitations. So we're looking at other, what other opportunities are there? Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Leonard.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a member of the Navajo Tribe Bene Nation. I'm actually coming in. I am hooked up to my jetpack Verizon, coming in from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm teleworking out of Arizona. So we have not gone back to Sacramento in a while. But yeah, so I'm a BIA tribal, the transportation specialist with BIA Roads in Sacramento. Good morning again.
Thank you and good morning. Brian Mcdonald.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Brian McDonald. I'm a tribal council member from Chemehuevi Indian tribe. I'm connected to the, I started at my house through, I forget my internet provider. We got a number of internet providers out here, small joint partnerships that we've had through the tribe. So we've got pieces of infrastructure. I've got a lot of my tribal members use the little jet packs and packages that Verizon sells. We've been working on trying to package together a number of these different grant fundings, but many of you know, you got middle mile, first mile, last mile, every mile in between. And it becomes difficult, or it has become difficult, I think, to package. We got a late invite. I'm hoping I have some staff on here, but mostly my intent is to take stuff back to my group, to my tribal council. We've been a member of SCTCA for a long time, so I appreciate the invite. Not so much Sandag, right, because we're out here in San Bernardino County, but have worked closely with Hassan, right, through relationships with SCAG, and just appreciate the invite. Yeah, we're real remote out here, is about as far east in California as you can get on the Arizona border. So it's difficult to get any real infrastructure built out here. So this is an important call for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Difficult and expensive. We
Oh,
also,
God.
yeah, we also have, I wanted to mention, we do have our partners at the Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, our sister MPO to the north and east of us on the call. We work closely with them, Brian, so I'm glad you could join us, and we're happy to continue facilitating any other discussions that come out of this. And that
Shout out
offer
to David
stands to everyone.
Salgado. Sorry, shout out to David for getting us. I appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Mark Webb.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of your magnificent presentation today. I work with the Kauai Band of Indians as a consultant, primarily in grantsmanship. And I was asked by Chairman Salgado to be here today to learn whatever I can learn. I'm in Temecula, so I'm stuck with Spectrum. And I'm not sure. I'll let Chairman Salgado describe the situation at Kauai. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Rantanen.
Good morning, everyone. Matthew Rantanen, Director of Technology for Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association. And I also have on my name listed Golden State Network. That's what GSN stands for. I am on loan effectively to support the Golden State Network, which is the governor's SB 156 legislation to build middle mile infrastructure throughout California. And I'm working with the tribes in California to understand their needs and their connectivity needs to the middle mile network, which is the piece of the infrastructure that connects your community to the rest of the global internet. I have been a part of the Tribal Digital Village for I think 21 years now, and you know, we've been able to keep people connected on the Tribal Digital Village through a long haul microwave solution, wireless solution for the past 2 decades. But as we all understand the growth and the needs of and the strain on the internet system, as you know, we heard earlier that that there's a strain on that Tribal Digital Village network to become faster and have more throughput per individual. There's some limitations to wireless, and as fiber gets closer to all of us, those opportunities grow, the bandwidth grows, the capacity grows to support more people at faster speeds and different rates and such. And the chairman of SCTCA and executive director thought it was a good position to be in, working with the Golden State Network to ensure that those middle mile ring architecture builds get as close to tribes as possible, so that each tribe can tap into that and have more robust networks and take a little bit more control of their own communication future. So I'm happy to be here and happy to answer any questions on any of those fronts. Thank you.
Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. We'll definitely take you up on that offer. Mike Connolly.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm talking to you. I'm a policy consultant to Tribal Chairmen's Association. I'm talking to you over Verizon. I'm on the road right now. I actually began work as had an online presence as a consultant back in the 90s, and had a little phone modem that as you can imagine, I'm very appreciative of all of the changes that have occurred since then. And I mean, back then you couldn't even do video. That was impossible over those modems. I live on a part of the Campo Reservation, a piece of the Campo Reservation that has access to ADSL line from AT&T, but it only serves about 25 households on the reservation. So the rest of the reservation is lacking in that, and they rely primarily on Tribal Digital Village.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for being here. Ray.
Good morning. I'm Ray Taran. I am the Resource Management Director for the Viejas Tribe. And we here at the Tribal Hall have access to fiber optic, high-speed broadband internet service. And the rest of my reservation, with the exception, of course, the casino and the hotels, have DSL, which is a very bad way of communicating nowadays and very slow. And our kids are not able to download and upload content for education and get frustrated. And so we're beginning to see more digital divide because the service is so bad up here. But we did get an NTIA grant, and we are in contract right now with Cox to serve the rest of the community. So we're very blessed with what's happening so far, and of course here at the Tribal Hall we're able to communicate very readily either through the Wi-Fi or through our network and whatever. And I'm going to one up Mike, because I know Morse code, semaphore, and tin cans and string. So I remember those days.
Thanks, Ray. Trish.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody in attendance. My name is Trish Pizzano-Moralia. I am the recent new addition to the EPI Nation of Santa Isabel. I'm here on behalf of Chairwoman Bernice Paipa. I am the new executive director. I'm very excited to be a part of the nation and bring my expertise. They have been teaching me some language, so Hauka, to the council. I'm only 10 days into the position. So I am heading up some strategic initiatives, especially for access, because that's one of the my important strategies to make communication key as we move forward. So I'm so grateful that Chairwoman Paipa asked me to be in on this meeting. From what I understand, we have AT&T and that usually that's what's been covered out there in that rural area. I'm happy to announce that our education director, Bobby Sue out there, has partnered with the San Diego Library for 100 hotspots. So the elders and those on property out there can check out hotspots and Chromebooks for you in partnership with the San Diego Library out of Julian. So thank you very much. I'm proud and honored to be a part of the nation, and of course to be present in this council meeting. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Trish. Did I miss anyone else? Any other participants representing a tribe who want to introduce themselves? If you're in attendee mode, please raise your hand. We'll make sure that you have the ability to unmute yourself. Or use the chat if you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Shane Helms. I'm the San Pasqual Tribal Planning Director. I used to work with Morongo, so I'm kind of familiar with Sandag. Yeah, we have AT&T. Our particular building just got fiber ran to it from our administration building. And so that is now, our internet's not going in and out, so which is great. But yeah, we do see the significance of not having fiber, not just as a tribal member, but also as the business part of the tribe. Thanks.
Thank you, Shane. All right, anybody else? Any other non-tribal representatives that want to introduce themselves? Or friends at SCAG or Caltrans?
I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Danielle Coachman. I'm at the planning department at Sandag. I'm the manager of strategic partnerships.
Rafael?
Hi, my name is Rafael Reyes. I'm the Caltrans District 11 Native American Liaison. Happy to be here and looking forward to support this effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Rafael. Rachel? Rachel Graham, you should be able to unmute yourself. Scott?
Good morning. I'm Scott Christopher. I'm the Interim Tribal Liaison for the County of San Diego. And thank you so much for having us. Looking forward to this meeting.
Thanks, Scott. Rachel, I saw you were able to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. I'm Rachel Graham. I'm the IT Director representing Chairman Robert Smith on behalf of Paula, Band of Mission Indians. We use AT&T fiber to our businesses, or the tribe, business, and then we are looking to improve internet for our members.
Yanni?
I'm a transit planner at North County Transit District, and we all know that digital equity is extremely important to public transit access. So super interested in learning how NCTD can support this effort.
Thank you, Yanni. All right, anybody else? Okay, we're gonna move forward. Please feel free to use the chat to introduce yourself if you didn't get a chance to do so. Go to the next slide, Kat, please. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna spend the rest of the next 15 minutes together to just give you a really quick overview of all of the funding programs that are available now to support broadband. As we heard from all of you, as you introduce yourself, you know, there's some options for internet connectivity, but there really isn't enough out there, especially in our rural and the tribal areas. So we want to spend some time going over what these different funding programs that are available look like, and then move into the second portion of the workshop to have a more focused discussion on how we can help you all advance and pursue all of these funding opportunities. Next slide, please. If someone would have told me a year and a half ago that I would be using terms like broadband and fiber on a daily basis, I would not have believed them. So before we go over all of the details and we start talking about broadband and infrastructure, we just want to start off by setting the stage on, you know, what we mean when we talk about broadband. Believe it or not all internet connections are technically considered broadband. The Federal Communications Commission defines a broadband connection as an internet connection that has a minimum download speed of 25 megabits per second and then an upload speeds of 3 megabits per second. Now, for those who have experienced 25.3, you'll know that it's not sufficient to be able to participate in our digital online worlds. It's not sufficient, especially if you have multiple devices in a household connected, requiring a lot of bandwidth. Doing things like school assignments, work, doctor's appointments are really difficult on a 25.3 broadband connection. So for this reason, our state has recently set a new speed goal of 100 megabits per second and 20 megabits per second upload speeds. So that's the new kind of broadband threshold and definition for the state of California. As you can see on this diagram here, and as we've heard from a lot of our representatives earlier, broadband can be delivered by a variety of means. First and foremost, we have a fiber optic backbone. That's that sort of underlying infrastructure, much like our interstate freeway today, that connects all of the infrastructure throughout all of the states. Then we have a middle mile segment that takes that fiber optic backbone and connects it to a distribution center. And then an internet service provider, or say Tribal Digital Village, will then take that middle mile connection and provide internet service to a home or to a business. And that'll be, you know, through satellite, wireless, DSL, or a variety of other means. Next slide, please. So as Antoinette and Chairwoman Pinto mentioned in their opening remarks, you know, the benefits of broadband really are significant. It provides access to remote work, online learning, and it's really an essential public good, an essential public service. It's such a fundamental part of life today, yet there's so many inequities in terms of affordability and availability of broadband service. And that's really apparent when you look at our rural and unincorporated areas of the county compared to the urbanized parts of the county. The lack of service in our rural portions of the region means that only 66% of the population in the unincorporated county, including tribal lands, have access to broadband. There's a limited choice in the providers in these parts of the county, which leads to disproportionately higher costs, especially on tribal lands and in rural communities. Costs can reach as high as $90 or even more, as many of you know, for quite frankly, slow or unreliable service. And we know that affordability is one of the biggest barriers for, being able to subscribe to an internet plan, and that directly impacts a lot of our lower income households and seniors in the region as well. So as Antoinette mentioned, we spent much of last year working with a digital divide task force, many of you, to develop a regional strategy to improve broadband access and adoption in the region. You can see a cover of our strategy on this page here, and strengthening our partnerships with tribes and many of our other partners is a really important and near-term strategy for us moving forward. Next slide, please. Beyond what we've been doing in the region, the state and the federal government have also really recognized the significance of broadband connectivity as part of the COVID-19 pandemic. And they have allocated significant amount of funding to really support internet services and improve infrastructure in underserved rural and tribal communities. So on this slide here are just a few of the state and federal directives that have recently launched in the past year. The state released a California Broadband Action Plan that sort of serves as a roadmap for how the state intends to expand broadband connectivity in the state. That plan led to the passage of Senate Bill 156, which invests $6 billion in broadband infrastructure statewide. We'll talk a little bit more about the details of all of those legislative programs. And then there's also been an increase in expanded funding through the California Advanced Services Fund. So all of this is amounting to billions of dollars in more broadband funding. And all of these programs include specific earmarks to improve connectivity on tribal lands. And then at the federal level, the recent passage of the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act included a $69 billion package for broadband as well. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here going over some of these funding programs. On the next slide, please. As part of the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act, much of the broadband funding is being administered and managed by the NTIA. So that's the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. There's a lot of information on these slides and an overview of the different funding buckets, but what we really want to get across is that there's a lot of funding specifically available for tribes. And so that's what you see here in the buckets that are highlighted in blue. We're going to spend some time later in the presentation going over the Digital Equity Act plan. That is a funding program that is available to tribes now and provides funding to develop a strategy and plan for improving digital equity. That program requires a letter of intent, which is due July 12th. So we'll go over some of those details later in the presentation. There's also a tribal broadband connectivity program that is anticipated to increase funding and reopen in just a few months. And then lastly, for tribes that are looking to expand or pursue funding to increase the middle mile infrastructure and connections to tribal lands, there is a middle mile program, and those applications are due September 30th. Next slide, please. The funding programs available through the NTIA include a variety of things: infrastructure, improving services, planning dollars. The federal government also recently launched the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is another great program that is really helping to answer and solve the affordability question. So for qualifying households on tribal lands, you can receive a discount of up to $75 a month per household. And if you're eligible, you're also eligible to receive a discount of up to $100 for a laptop or a desktop computer or a tablet. So another great program that we wanted to make sure you were aware of. Next slide, please. Also at the federal level, more funding to support planning and capital dollars. This is one of those funding programs that we'll go over in more detail later in the presentation, but this is one of those programs that really was created as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's a really great opportunity to acquire one-time funding to expand broadband infrastructure that will directly support and advance, online work capabilities, online learning, telehealth. And at the state level, on the next slide, the California Public Utilities Commission manages and administers many of the broadband grant programs. Again, like with NTIA, there's so many different funding grant programs. Really what we want to get across here is that there are a range of funding opportunities to help you, whether you're looking for technical assistance to develop strategic plans or conducting a needs assessment. If you are ready to start thinking about or designing infrastructure or designing a network to expand broadband services, there's funding programs available through the federal funding account. And then many other opportunities to tackle the adoption and digital literacy issue as well through the California Advanced Services Fund. And we've put together a short little tribal funding matrix that kind of summarizes all of these funding opportunities for tribes. So we'll be sending that out to everyone as an outcome of this workshop. Next slide, please. And the last program, certainly not the least, is the statewide open access middle mile network. So Matt started talking about this just earlier, a few minutes ago when he introduced himself. But as part of Senate Bill 156, in addition to providing funding for broadband grant programs, the state is also constructing a $3 billion statewide middle mile open access network. What this means is that there's going to be thousands of new middle mile infrastructure that will provide direct connections, directly serving our tribal and our underserved areas, and in really increasing the capability to provide those last mile connections and bring internet service to many homes and many businesses, especially in our rural areas. So what you're seeing on this map here, the lines in orange are the proposed middle mile network in the broader Southern California region. This is a really fast moving project that is anticipated to be completed by 2026. I'm gonna stop here and see if Chris, wearing his Caltrans Sandag hat, wants to add anything else, and maybe we can have Matt as well share his perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Crystal. And as my dad would say to me, are you sufficiently confused at this point? Because we've just gone over a ton of stuff, and don't feel overwhelmed. We're gonna demystify this much more here in the rest of the conversation today. But we really just want to give you a full snapshot of everything that's going on. And there really is just a tremendous amount of opportunity, both because there's state and federal funding, but also because of what's on this last slide, this big piece of infrastructure that's currently missing, this middle mile connection piece that really precludes a lot of the connections to be made to homes and businesses, especially in remote areas, as many of you have already mentioned today. This network is being constructed by Caltrans along the state highway system, and it will be in construction. Well, actually, it started already because the first segment of that infrastructure build is happening here in San Diego on State Route 67. But we're going to be building thousands of miles of this over the next 4 years. We're using the federal funds that came through the Recovery Act and investing that very strategically based on this analysis that you kind of can see here on this slide. These bubble diagrams are indicating where there's a need because of how many folks are actually underserved. And no mystery, and we'll show some additional slides here in the future, or on future slides, that many tribal reservations are severely underserved due to this lack of the robust middle mile infrastructure. And so as this middle mile infrastructure is built out throughout the state, it is going to really provide an opportunity for what we call last mile connections to tribal facilities, government facilities, residents, et cetera. And so that is a tremendous opportunity that didn't exist prior to this middle mile being conceived and ultimately being delivered. Now, it sounds wonderful, right? We're going to build thousands of miles of this over the next 4 years. I assure you this is a tremendous challenge. And I'll ask Matt to maybe speak to this a little bit. Golden State Net is an entity that is really being asked to administer this entire network. And it literally is like the state superhighway for the internet that the state is really constructing to create connectivity and broadband for all. And it's a challenge. There's technical challenges to build it, to design it, and ultimately to even procure the materials to put it in the ground, quite frankly. But it will be there one day, and it's going to present these tremendous opportunities for last mile connections to the many of the places that are underserved today, including the tribal reservations. So Matt, I don't know if you want to maybe shed a little more light on kind of where things stand, because it is a very fast moving program.
Sure, thanks, Chris. So Golden State Network is really an extension of Scenic. Those of you know what Scenic is, it's the corporation that has developed the Research and Education Network of California. And it's one of the biggest research and education networks in any, in relation to other states. It's massive. And they have the experience of designing networks and building out networks. And we're working with California Department of Technology and Caltrans as partners. This is the solution to get this done in a hasty manner. The money that's being used has timeline stamps on it that can't be bent. So money has to be either allocated or spent in 2 years, and the network be built in approximately 5 years. So it's a really fast moving pace, and it's in the neighborhood of 10,000 miles of fiber being built in California. And that's a monumental task for anything. 10,000 miles is a massive ask. And, the state has worked on speeding up permitting processes, working on streamlining application processes for permits, and then dialing in like the process of who gets to the front of the line and why. So there's been it's really a concerted effort between most of the departments. The Public Utilities Commission is very involved as well in suggesting routes with the understanding of who has what service and availability. So the network design is being tweaked and finalized with the California Department of Technology, and those items will be passed on to Caltrans for the build. If you look at the map that's on the screen here, it's really kind of hard to decipher because there's colors that seem very similar there, but essentially that darker orange color of the lines on the map doesn't exist today, and that's what will exist. So when I was working with Obama's administration in 2016, we did a project where we identified the missing link to the internet, why tribes don't have access to the internet. What's the key ingredient? And that is middle mile, right? That's the thing that connects your community to the rest of the globe. There were 8,000 missing miles in the lower 48 states for roughly 320 reservations. California had 1,800 of those miles. So, as tribes, 109 tribes, you do the average there, that's quite a few miles per tribe to solve, and it's very expensive. There's only one federal program that repeats itself on a regular basis that allows fiber, and that's E-rate, and E-rate's a tough nut to crack. And so there wasn't a way to build that middle mile piece. Now with the new money coming through, the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program, the IIJA that's coming through, some of your infrastructure dollars that you're seeing through Treasury and different departments, now there's opportunity to build fiber. And the benefit is that California is building a network that will connect you to the rest of the stuff. And really all you have to do is get connected to this network. Depending on your timeline, you may already be ready for that. There are some solutions in the works to try to get things connected faster in an interim, and then migrate over to permanent. There are situations where you may be a tribe that isn't prepared to take on your own communications responsibilities for the next 5 years. But you know that you're going to do that. And this is where you'd like to be connected at this point on your reservation, because that's the logical place. Well, Caltrans and and Golden State Network are looking to identify those solutions ahead of time for you, so that as that network is built out, connection opportunities are placed in those locations so that they don't have to be done after the fact. Because after the fact, they become extremely expensive. Right now, when you're building a network out, if you can make those plans ahead of time, that stuff is in line with construction costs. As the ground is open and things are happening, prices drop dramatically. So with all of those of you that mentioned the Tribal Digital Village Network and your experiences there, what changes a network like that, and why Tribal Digital Village Network has limitations, is because there's fiber in Paula and there's fiber in La Posta. And everything else in the middle of the Tribal Digital Village Network, which is 650 miles, is a wireless connection. So there are multiple wireless connections relying on other multiple wireless connections to make sure that internet happens. And you reduce your capacity as you get further away from the fiber. What this will do, and what you see on this map, is that there are now fiber rings going down to 76. There will be fiber ring going down to 78. There will be fiber ring going down to 79. I believe the 94 has been included again, which it looks like it's on this map. So, and the 67. So now the fiber gets so much more accessible and close to each reservation that if you were to build a wireless solution off of the fiber that's at your reservation, you have that capacity right there. Or if you were going to build a fiber solution to your homes from that same location, you have massive capacity right there, and at wholesale cost, I might add. It is not on the 4 or 5 times markup that we're seeing in some of the tribal communities today, where originally the Tribal Digital Village was paying $99 per megabit per month, which is not a functional price. You can't scale a network and support anything. So while the Tribal Digital Village Network solved the problem for a while, it isn't the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution is to get fiber really close to the end, if not to every home, and then build out your wireless networks off of that, which creates a much more robust scenario. And this now allows us at Tribal Digital Village, but also every single reservation that wants to manage their own communication needs, the ability to do that. So thank you.
So I'm hoping many of you are deeply and profoundly impressed by what Matt had to say, because he's literally, trusted source. He's been doing this for years, working on this network. And what you're hearing is this is doable. This is not pie in the sky. This isn't like 20 years from now. This isn't some phantom investment strategy. This will happen. I can assure you here in the San Diego region, for sure, Caltrans is working on about 500 to 600 miles of the network that Matt was pointing out here, that the orange lines on the map, the spaghetti. And we have teams working on that right now, figuring out how to get that under construction. As I mentioned, we have the first statewide project already going in the ground on State Route 67, which is an early start that we were profoundly capable of doing because of the foresight at Sandag and adoption of the strategy that the region has adopted, and working in partnership with the County of San Diego to game out how to do this. And we want to scale all of that across the entire Southern California region. That's one of the reasons we're really so happy that we have the partnership with SCAG, that is our partner agency across the rest of Southern California, and working with the Tribal Chairmen's Association and folks like Matt, who are a trusted messenger, who are telling you how this is really going to work on the technology side of it. And we want to facilitate making the money and the expertise available to all of you to really bring about this vision that Matt just outlined. It's been tough sledding up until now, but the money is now available, the technology is catching up, and we have all the pieces. We just kind of need to put it together. And it is a steep learning curve. There's lots going on here in terms of different ways of delivering the service. And we should all point out that we want to do this in partnership with the private sector. They're really the experts in doing a lot of what we are all relying on today. And in some cases, they're going to step up and help. In some cases, they may not. And there's going to be opportunities to also run these systems and these networks by ourselves, in essence, on reservation, if you want to take that on, or through Tribal Digital Village, for example. So there's lots and lots of these opportunities. And later on, we'll rely on Ray and maybe some other folks to talk a little bit about what they're doing with partnering with AT&T and Cox. But in the meantime, I see a hand up from Brian. I think you have a comment or question.
Yes, yes, sir, I do. So I'm looking at that map, and I think, and I'll just point out, and I think I highlighted this issue for Chemehuevi. If you look to the far east part of that middle mile map, right, it looks like it goes down that California 95. So you hit, looks like, I'm guessing that's Fort Mojave, goes down pretty close to Crit. But if you look at those two little sort of triangle pieces, I think that's Chemehuevi on the map. And it's not real close to us. And I just highlighting another one of the challenges for Chemehuevi that I think we're going to see even with this middle mile piece. So I don't know, right? Is that right up Tough Cookie Chemehuevi, or is there opportunity to realign that? Like I said, I'm guessing that goes along California 95. Or are there other opportunities that, you know, say, hey, middle mile didn't quite cut it here, right? I mean, I'm not sure how to phrase the question. I'm not an expert, but I'm looking at our other reservations, and I don't want to take away from how.
No, it makes a lot of sense, Brian. And there are situations throughout California where the Caltrans right of way does not dissect or bisect the tribe's land or become, you know, adjacent to the tribe's land. And there are solutions in the works. They're one-off designs. So I was actually midway typing through the chat on how to communicate with me to get into a meeting with Golden State Net to have that actual conversation for each tribe. So I'll put that into the chat and grab that, and then let's get together and have a meeting with the network design team and talk about the solution specific to Chemehuevi.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you, sir.
No worries.
Yeah, which is a good sort of takeaway here. This middle mile network is being constructed along the state highway system, and that's because that's right away that's available, and the installation is relatively straightforward. It's something that the department has done traditionally. We obviously know how to construct things on the state highway system, but as Matt is pointing out, that doesn't mean that that network gets close to every end user, and there may be gaps in this overall system. So for those of you who know which state highway you're close to, you will be pretty well served unless that state highway is not getting some middle mile. And for the vast majority of the Southern California routes near reservations, there are these investments taking place, but I think it's very well worth having this conversation with Matt. There's a posting here that you can take a look at some of the mapping. This is changing a little bit over time, depending on the build and kind of what the network design ultimately is like. But the California Department of Technology, the Public Utilities Commission really want input. They want to hear from all of you to the extent that you feel that you're not being served adequately. And we can definitely assist with navigating through that a little bit more and doing sort of an assessment to make sure that all the tribes represented here really have a clear understanding of what's planned for the middle mile. Any other questions on what we've already presented? Because I think it's time for a little bit of a break and take a breather here and just jump into the next piece after maybe a 5-minute restroom break or libation break. Any
Nope.
other questions before
Chris,
we do it?
we're going to push on through and we're going to go directly into the next topic because I know we're kind of running behind schedule. I think we started a little bit late, so we're just going to push on through.
All right, if everybody's good with that, we will do that. We can go to the next slide.
If there are no questions or comments from the working group members or the public.
Yeah,
Give
and
it a few
I see no
seconds.
hand raised from the public chair.
Very good. Thank you for checking. Now we're just going to go right on through to the next item number 4, broadband on tribal lands. Please.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
broadband on tribal lands, it's kind of my topic as well. So let me jump into this a little bit, and I'm going to just preface this by saying a lot of what you're going to see is focused on San Diego County. It doesn't mean we're ignoring everybody else, but we want to kind of give you a robust assessment of kind of what's going on in this county and similar issues in the other counties as well. So through the work that SANDAG did during the development and ultimately the adoption of the digital equity strategy and now the action plan, we did a lot of analysis with the limited available data to try to better understand, who's connected, who's not connected. And Crystal talked about these different speeds, these internet speeds of 25.3, which are the federal standard that is being used to describe kind of the level of service. The difficulty there is a lot of these things are self-reported. And so the industry will report to the Federal Communications Commission or the Public Utilities Commission in the state of California that they provide that level of service. The difficulty is that may not be what you're experiencing when you actually use their service at home. And there's a whole bunch of reasons as to why that is. And so the picture gets a little bit more muddled as to how fast the internet connections really are that people are experiencing. So in these areas where you see the green, that's really where the higher speed, the 120 speed, which is this new state standard that's been adopted, is being met. And you can see it's looks pretty solid and looks like everybody is pretty well served, but there's many pockets even within the urbanized area where the service is either not as fast as it's stated here, or it is so incredibly costly that many people simply can't afford it. It may be available, but if you can't pay for it, it's really not going to be doing you much good. In the other areas here, and you can see the tribal reservations are outlined in yellow. You can see a lot of these gray pockets where there's population, there's service, but the service doesn't meet that 120 speed. And so, you know, a little blurry eye test here basically tells you that the further you get away from the urbanized area, the further you move from the west over to the eastern part of the county, the less and less of this service is really out there. And to the extent that it is out there, it may be costly and it may not be as functional as we would like to see. Now, again, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to see that most of the tribal reservations don't have good access to these services. In some cases, there's pockets where that is the case. We've heard that a little bit in North County here in terms of Pala and Rincon, you know, working on something with AT&T to provide fiber. Viejas is doing something similar with Cox. But the further you go east, the more remote and more rural the reservations are, the less well served. And that is really the fundamental problem statement that we're facing. And that can be multiplied out across Southern California. If we showed all the other reservations, it's a similar picture. Let's jump to the next slide here. Oh, I thought we had two, sorry. So what we'd really like to do is kind of foster a little bit of a conversation with all of you to talk about what you have experienced and the kind of feedback that you've had from your leadership, your membership, and what is it that you would like to see? What is sort of the problem? Is it affordability? Is it connectivity? Is it the lack of providers? Is it a cost issue? And the reason we wanted to have this conversation, would be, by the way, a lot easier in person. We want to kind of get a sense of how we can assist. And maybe there are some things we can all do together to develop some strategies to address these things more collectively, rather than having sort of one-off everybody having to solve their own problems. Maybe there's some commonalities, and we want to hear what those issues are so we can perhaps assist you, specifically as we get into the last part of the program today, talking about the different funding programs, where there's strategic opportunities then to seek funding to solve some of these issues that you're grappling with on the ground. So a little hard to facilitate here as a group discussion, but we're going to try this. If you have something that you can share with us, we'd really encourage this. I'm going to ask at some point here along the way, Ray from Viejas to talk a little bit about the specific challenges that they faced and what it is they wanted to solve with the grant that they have. But the challenges that we've typically seen are across different categories. So one challenge is about access. Just simply, are there areas in your community that just simply don't have access? How pervasive is that? Is that to your tribal government type facilities? Is it to homes? Is it to medical facilities, et cetera? Are folks relying more on a cell phone than they are on an internet connection because it's perhaps more robust than it is relying on something that comes out of the wall? And what have you experienced during the time of COVID? What's been the feedback from membership, and what kind of issues have you been dealing with, and maybe even some of the solutions? So let's maybe talk a little bit about this access issue and see what folks have to say. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to raise your hand, we'll call on you as we see your hands. Okay, don't be shy. I'm happy to call on folks. Okay, Brian, I'm glad you raised your hand. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just jump in to help get folks started. Again, I'm not an expert on, the connectivity, but certainly there have been all sorts of, COVID in our rural location. Although, folks in Indian country on our reservation and others have talked about telehealth for a long time. Not possible out here because we just simply don't have the capacity for that. There are lots of parts of our reservation that don't really get access at all. I don't know if you call them dead areas or dead zones, or so we have those. Again, we have little pieces of infrastructure here and about from different folks. For a while, I think I was getting my internet beamed across. I think right now it's getting beamed across the lake to a satellite, which is, so it's coming from outside of California. To have, we would like to be able to, control our own communication, simply for the fact that, we're so remote that to do it well, we need to do it ourselves. Certainly we don't have the expertise to do that yet. So I think, the preparation of the workforce is going to be a challenge for us as we move towards that. Price of the services impacts, our elders, right, quite a bit. And I think most of the folks that are using more internet at their homes are using the cellular type hot box. I think that seems to be, is a hot box. I don't know. It seems to be the thing. I mean, we were getting some of those from our kids to be able to use that for the schooling, but obviously that as I'm saying, an education piece as the kids move into, being educated digitally, I guess is the way I'll say it. We need to have something more robust. I mean, we saw the map, so I don't need to highlight, our location again, but I mean, as for conversation starters, I think that's probably something that somebody could grab a piece of and roll with.
Yeah, Brian, thanks for sharing that. And just, little hard show of hands, et cetera here. We do it in a room, but anybody else experiencing similar things that Brian's describing? Have you heard that from membership? Are those kind of conversations being had at the councils? What's happening?
Stephen Escobar has their hand up. I think should be able to unmute themselves. Stephen?
Yeah, this is Stephen Escobar from the Chemehuevi Indian Tribe, representing that tribe as the tribal administrator. Just to, I guess, add to what Brian was talking about, one of the big things we're dealing with is actual contractors bidding on some of our projects. With the market right now, it's just hard to get some of these projects going. A lot of contractors are pulled thin, and they're just hitting those priority areas. Us being a rural location, it's a lot more difficult for us to actually get contractors to want to come out here and work on some of these projects, especially for what amount of money we have to put into a project. It kind of cuts that down, so we actually have to downscale what size we're looking at doing. And a lot of the stuff that we have coming to our area is going to be microwaved in, and we do have key points where it's at, but the providers that we have just have not shown the interest in expanding to some of the areas that Brian is mentioning that aren't getting that service. And it does make it difficult to go beyond that when you're not getting the interest from those internet providers to want to expand, because it takes a lot of their interest in putting in those radio towers and small radios on homes, making sure that the vegetation that's in those areas doesn't impede that. And then the more you have up, the better your service connection will be in the event there's a storm or wind, because that has a lot to do with those towers as well, as because it is a microwave system. They move with the weather, and it can impede that connection. So broadband, I mean, the middle mile, if we actually went after this grant, we got about 19 to 20 miles to get to the 95. So that's not too bad. I think it would be definitely a good project for Chimwavy to try to get broadband from the 95. I didn't realize they were actually connecting most of these highways together. So that actually makes it a more feasible investment for Chimwavy to try to make it to this 19 mile or the 95 from our area.
Awesome. Any other kind of experiences with this? You know, we've heard a few things along the way, challenges, especially with what Brian touched on a little bit with education. You know, that was a big thing at the start of the pandemic. Lots of kids got handed a Chromebook and couldn't do anything with it. Telehealth was big, right? Who wanted to go to the doctor when you might get sick going in to a clinic or seeing someone? And so telehealth sounded like a great opportunity, great solution. So we want to hear kind of what folks have been experiencing. And, you know, if you have nothing, that's okay, because we can go into another topic, but I want to make sure, you know, if you also have a question about any of this, you know, now's a good time to pose it. And otherwise we can go forward with a little bit of different topic here. See another hand up.
It looks like Ray has his hand up. Ray Taran?
Yes, am I getting called on?
You're getting called on, Taran. Go ahead.
All righty. Well, let me tell you, all the experiences that I've heard so far, we have experienced ourselves. But I'm going to give you kind of a kind of end of story. We've been working with Cox Communication for 6 years to try to get broadband out here. 4 years just to get them to the table, just to talk to us. 2 years ago, we entered into a wholesale purchase agreement with Cox, which means the tribe is paying for high-speed broadband access for every one of our tribal members. So we've got that in place, and like I said, that was 2 years ago. What we're finding out now is that all the infrastructure plans have been done. All the proposed routes have been identified. All the proposed drops have been identified. Now we have to go to the County of San Diego, not AT&T, but County of San Diego, SDG&E, and BIA to get permission just to be able to now start providing those infrastructure drops to the houses. And that literally has taken us 2 years, and we're still not done yet. We still have a couple of roadblocks with the county because we need to drop into some of their right-of-way, and with SDG&E. And I did mention AT&T. I was going to mention AT&T, but now I also remember that AT&T is also asking us to submit a permit to them. Just from the county, they're telling us we have 6 months from when we make an application to them for them to give us permission to literally dig about 200 linear feet within county right-of-way. That is becoming our biggest problem. We have got all the needs identified. We've got all the infrastructure identified. We've got all the pathways identified. Now we have to go through the permitting process to get these things in. And like I said, it's taken us 2 years just to get to that point. So it's a little frustrating that we do have a broadband service provider right on the edge of our reservation, but we are just receiving a lot of headwind trying to actually get the permission to put things on the power poles here and to provide drops to each one of the residences out here. So that's kind of our end story. You know, recognizing your need and everything is great. Designing your infrastructure is great. Making your plans are great, but then you have to actually implement it. And the implementation process is becoming very frustrating for us anyway. I don't know if any other tribes are going to have that, but because we're providing fiber optic, it's becoming a problem. I guess if we were wireless, we could throw some towers up around the reservation, but geographically we have some challenges with that. But we're finding that even that option is way more expensive than what we can get from Cox. But again, time. If I looked at if I was looking at this situation 2 years ago, and putting some value to the time it's taken us to get to this point, it may have been cheaper for us to go ahead and do full wireless and build towers and put the receive and send communication devices on each one of the houses out here. But since we're at this point in time, we're just going to have to let this permitting process go and get some service. From Cox, we've asked them to give us some date certain when services can start to be provided. And they're telling us it'll be 6 months before we even have the first service drop eligible. And that's in an area where we have permits. We still don't have permits for all areas. So that's my story. Sorry for the lengthy one.
No, Ray, awesome. Thank you. This is exactly what we want to hear. The kinds of challenges that folks are facing. And there's good news, Ray. This is not just a show and tell and no good answers. Turns out we've been talking about permitting challenges in the region for a number of months. We have a group of permitting folks empaneled under something called REDIT, the Regional Digital Infrastructure Task Force at Sandag. And we've been meeting with various folks, including the internet service providers, to talk about this very topic. And it is complicated in the sense that many jurisdictions feel strongly that they have to protect the public safety, and they have to make sure that the permits that are required are issued in an appropriate manner. And the industry has made it pretty clear that it is a big challenge to them to do those things quickly. But I think we can help, is what I want to end on. We can reach out to you and maybe talk through more specifically what those challenges are and figure out how to work with our county partners to see if we can navigate the process a little bit better. There's clear opportunity there. And to be just perfectly transparent, our county partners have said that the timelines are just too long and they want to make them shorter. They see that as a challenge institutionally and they want to find a way to help. And no better time to do it than perhaps with your project and willing partner in Cox. So thank you for sharing that. And we may call on you again because I know you also navigated the money part pretty effectively. I see a hand up from Trish, I think.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing this up because I was just on a council meeting last night. And we had a presentation from SDG&E about, digging and placing underground wires. And at that time, we brought up at the same time that you are, digging underground, moving poles to underground, can we drop fiber optic at the same time? So I'm glad to have that commentary from Ray Taran because that's exactly what we were asking. While we're in the ground, can we drop fiber optic cabling and etc. down there too? So I'm hoping to connect with more representatives on this. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, Trish. What did they tell you? I'm curious because we're having those conversations. So this is where I find out whether we're all telling each other the same story. What did they say?
Well, great. I just want to offer a little bit of my background. I come enriched from policy. So last night was my first introduction to the aerial maps, if you will, of our tracks and where they intend on dropping lines at the same time. So I said, what does the remediation look for roads? Because they're going to be digging up roads. What can you do about anything else? We'll have to get back to you.
Okay, and that's fair, Trish. I just want to, the reason I'm asking that question is because we have had those conversations at Sandag and at Caltrans with SDG&E, because SDG&E has a very, very large undergrounding program, especially in the East County, for fire safety purposes. And we're trying to do that in collaboration with them. And we completely agree that when there's an opportunity to put the electrical infrastructure underground, we want to leverage that opportunity to see if we can get the communications infrastructure underground as well, especially in places where it currently doesn't exist. And my understanding is on Santa Isabel Reservation, there are a number of undergrounding opportunities or needs, as well as along State Route 79, where we will be putting in the broadband middle mile. So lots more conversation on that topic too. And then I see Scott's hand up from the county. Scott.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Ray, for sharing that perspective. I just want to let you know that as the interim tribal liaison for the county, if I'm happy to help you navigate those permitting issues, and maybe for the broader group, if you do run into issues with the county, that's kind of what I'm here to help. I may not know the answer to your question or be able to, help you myself, but what I can do is try and navigate the county and help you navigate the county to resolve those issues. So I just wanted to let you all know that I'm here to help facilitate resolutions to any issues that you have with the county. And Ray, I'm happy to meet with you offline to discuss that particular issue and maybe help resolve it for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
That's terrific that you guys are hooking up. We also want to just mention that as part of the digital divide effort work that we've been doing in the region, we've also identified about 20 partners, broadband partners, that are working with us to solve some of these issues. Cox is amongst those, and we can help facilitate that conversation as well. Cox, I think, is very interested in making things easier and fixing things more systemically. They will be talking to us about their permitting challenges at our next regional task force on permitting. We're going to learn more from them, and then Scott, we'll circle back with you as well, with Lawrence and other folks at the county, because of the presence that Cox has, especially in the East County. All right. Any other thoughts, comments on this item? Because we've got another topic we can talk about. Maybe put up the next one here, Priscilla, or internet options. One of the things we hear a lot about, and you've heard a little bit here already, about how many people are actually providing service to you. Do you have choices, or are you really, somebody said earlier, I'm stuck. I remember who that was from Temecula. I'm stuck with Spectrum is what I heard somebody say. And then how affordable are these things? Is this really service that you're able to pay for? And ultimately, are you getting the kind of speed that you need? Have you ever run a speed test, for example, on your connection to see whether you're getting what you're paying for? And I think, Leonard, we saw your hand up. I don't know if you took it down. Did you want to chime in?
Yeah, sure. I just want to say, I remember, I think Ray mentioned BIA also, but I just want to reassure that we're here to assist as much as we can as far as the BIA roads are concerned, and we do have a easement permit that we can try to expedite for you. So BIA roads is basically in maintenance mode. We don't do new construction, but one of the closest to it is the full depth reclamation. So we would like to know where all the utility lines, underground utility lines are, if it does cross BIA roads, so we'll know we don't yank it out of there. So that's all I have on this input. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Leonard. Appreciate that. It's always great to have a good federal partner, right? So sounds like it'll come together for you, Ray. We're solving all your problems just on this one call. Any thoughts on these internet options? Do people feel like they know who to turn to? Do they have providers? Have they had those conversations? I know in the case of some of the North County tribes, they've had a lot of conversations with AT&T, getting some wholesale deals, getting service extended to all their the community members. You guys made some decisions to do that. I think Paula's had those conversations. Rincon sounds like you're doing something with AT&T. Do you think this stuff is affordable? Is it going to work for you? Do you got the kind of guarantees you want about the speed and service quality that you're hoping for? Would love to hear about that.
I would just say, from Paula's perspective, we had the meeting with AT&T, and I can't remember all the specific details, but I can say that our biggest concern is that we're going to spend a large amount of money to AT&T, and they're going to still own that internet, that fiber down the road. And they have the opportunity, even though they're promising, we're not going to increase the pricing for your members. We have all these different discounts and everything, but there's never a guarantee, especially when you don't own that fiber. So that's why we decided not to go forward with them.
Yeah, and Rachel, thanks for sharing that. Chairman Smith touched on that a little bit when I met with him a couple of weeks back. And I think these are the kinds of business decisions, that each council is facing to kind of decide, do we rely on somebody like an AT&T or an existing ISP? Or do we maybe shop this around a little bit? Maybe there's some competition. Maybe there's a better option. I've heard several of you talk about the desire to kind of own this infrastructure, so you have sort of self-control. And the question really is that feasible? Will you have the technical support, the know-how? Matt touched on that a little bit with Tribal Digital Village. That's a functional supported system. We had a conversation with Keishan about a week ago, very enlightening in what they're doing and the struggle that the council has had about these issues too. Who should own it? Who should operate it? Would love to kind of get some perspectives on that. Yeah, Matt. Hey, sorry. See your hand there.
No worries. I just want to touch on that a little bit. So I sit on the co-chair seat at the Tech and Telecom Subcommittee at the National Congress of American Indians as well. And it's the perspective of that subcommittee as well as member tribes that are involved with the technology and writing policy out of that organization that, they are promoting tribes owning infrastructure. And so when you get an incumbent that is in your local region that wants to work with you, in every best case scenario, it would be better if the tribe owned the infrastructure and the incumbent would be able to deliver services over your infrastructure and make some sort of an agreement there. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you just want somebody to come in and build it and put it in place so that you have an option, and the tribe just doesn't have the capacity to manage it. And that's fully understandable. But when it's possible, own those infrastructure assets. They're very valuable assets to the tribe moving forward. It allows you to expand and control your own communications. As well as a lot of these companies, and there's a lot of fly-by-night right now, carpetbaggers, whatever you want to call them, the opportunistic people that see money flowing to tribes that are stepping into this space and saying, hey, we can help you get this money, or hey, we can help you solve this problem. Here's a solution that we want to provide to you. When they haven't really engaged your community and they aren't working with your champions on the ground who know what's going on, they're really looking to tap into the money flow. So just do your homework when you're working with, an outside source. Strategically put this together. The best opportunity for the tribe itself, and just be aware that even the best of them are looking for your federal dollar opportunities to expand their network. I mean, yes, they are serving you, but are they charging you full retail at the same time? Yes, they're serving you, but are they keeping all the assets for themselves? Are they going to continue to invest money in those assets as technology changes? Are they going to change out the optronics that run the fiber? Are they going to increase capacity as your needs on a network grow? Those are the kind of things you need to ask moving forward about these sorts of agreements that you might get into with folks. So just really do your homework. A lot of other tribes have worked with who you're working with. Ask questions, ask your peers, ask your your neighbor tribes. Some of us at Tribal Digital Village have experience working with certain companies. I certainly have exposure to a lot of this from my time working with FCC folks, as well as the National Congress of American Indians. So I do have some experience working and can point you to people that have experience with these groups. It goes all the way down to the people that are writing broadband plans. So just make sure you're doing your homework and you don't get caught by somebody that's really just trying to take advantage of the dollar flow. Thanks.
Hey, super comments there, Matt. I really appreciate that. And that goes back to what I said earlier. SANDAG and SCAG have gone through a procurement to identify broadband partners. We have 20 of those entities. They range from actual ISP providers that can actually provide service. There's technology companies on there that can provide different technology solutions in more difficult build circumstances. And then we have some folks who can do the planning and the finance and business plan kind of development work as well. And we can help you navigate and select some of those folks to assist. Ultimately, what Matt's getting at here is, you know, there's a kind of a business decision that has to be made as to which way you might want to go and how to leverage some of these funds. We're going to talk more about those funds in a minute. But ultimately, what do you want to spend that money on? And what's the best solution for you given your particular circumstance? And I think those are going to vary depending on where you are located and who's really willing to do business with you. Brian, I see your hand up again, I think.
Yes, sir. No, I think you touch on something that's a concern for me and I think my council, and again, because of our location, what Stephen highlighted earlier is you know, the fly-by-nights, the folks that don't want to come out and serve us versus the folks who might be willing because of that flow. I think it's very helpful. But is it SANDAG that's speaking when they say they have the list of providers? I mean, are those providers that would be useful sort of all the way out here? That's the first question. Because anything that you can share is helpful to us. The second question is, this is a great forum. I've not participated in something like that. And well, in this sort of conversation with other tribes, I don't think that I've really participated in something like this. Maybe this is for Chairwoman Pinto. Is there a group of tribes? Obviously, you guys have your digital village, but is there, you know, another forum where you know, I can send staff to, or should we just be working directly with SCAG, or, you know, that sort of open-ended question on, you know, best way for tribes to move forward, right? Do we have a forum, I guess, right?
I think we've been using, hi, Councilman. I believe we've been using this forum for digital stuff that's just coming out right now. So this forum or directly with Chris. Chris is always available to speak with, or Matt, or anybody on SANDAG or SCAG. But this is the perfect forum that we've been using to discuss this.
This is great. I appreciate the invite, and I'll make sure that that we participate more in the future, or however we can do. But I just wanted the fly-by-nights. You touched something for me, and I certainly don't want to get signed up with the bad guys. So.
Yeah, and Brian, that makes sense. And I think, you know, we anticipated that, and that's why these partnerships that we've created, we literally have these folks under contract, and they're not fly-by-nighters. They wouldn't have been selected, right? So I think we can, with some confidence, assist you with that. And I'm gonna just ask Roland to chime in, because you're asking some questions about, does that go all the way to you? Yes, because the SCAG region is you're within the SCAG region.
So, hey, Brian, this is Roland from SCAG. I know we connected briefly via email, so it's finally nice to see you. Yes, so the 20 partners that Chris mentioned also applies to SCAG as well too. It was a joint RFQ PP. So it's not just a SCAG thing or a SANDAG thing. We're trying to link up internet across the entire SoCal region. Regarding a forum, I know we're trying to set up a call with you and your tribe. So I'll speak with our executive director, see what we can do on SCAG's end as well too. That highly appreciate it as well.
No, thanks, Ron. I'm looking forward to our call whenever we get that set up. So thank you for being on as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, and Ray, you've got your hand up, so we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, Chris, just to get to Rachel's thoughts there, we went through an extensive discussion and negotiation with Cox, determining return on investment and things like that, because the tribe ultimately would like to own the facilities or enter into a better lease agreement with them at the end of it. But we do have an agreement that we signed, and it's good for 8 years. And then after 8 years, we're going to renegotiate the thing, because the Cox's determination was based on all the infrastructure they're going to put in. At the end of 8 years, they would have recouped the costs for that, and we agreed with that. You know, maybe not as detailed as we might have wanted to, but we thought in principle that was a good timeline. So we do have that agreement, and Rachel, if you'd like a copy of that agreement, I'd be happy to share that with you just to show how we negotiated the process of, at the end of a return of investment, that we would negotiate the purchase of the equipment from them.
Yeah, awesome, Ray. And I think, you know, this is the forum in which we can try to figure out how to share this more. Traditionally, this working group took up a lot of different issues. Broadband is the hot topic, and we can keep having this information exchange. Anything you want to share with us, we can share that out with the group. And then obviously we can also bring that back as future discussion items and maybe walk through some of these things, especially as we move into the funding and getting into developing some of these business plans and ultimately making the actual financial decisions that you're referring to in terms of signing agreements, and with the lookout that Matt had here for the charlatans and fly-by-nighters. I think Aaron Brown has his hand up too. Aaron?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Aaron Brown, and I'm the grants writer for the Quechan tribe. And one of the things, you know, I did get on here late, but I'm able to see when you were talking about the access and now the internet options. Our tribal council has been meeting on this because I had brought up, you know, several issues that I was seeing and going after some of the grants that were available. And of course, there were some short time frames at the time when they came out about doing the broadband and so forth. And of course, now we're seeing more agencies that are putting out grants that we could apply for broadband. And in talking with my tribal council and trying to get their points of view, we had applied for one, and we just recently got notice that we did not get it, which was sad for us. But at the same time, it was still a learning experience for us to what we were actually looking for and what our council wanted for our people here in our community. You know, it did come up to the issue to wanting to own our own internet service or broadband service for our people and for the community here. And we're on basically our tribe is on the Arizona and California border, also near Mexico. So we're right in the corner of California in Imperial County. And looking at, you know, we do have internet options that are here, mostly Wi-Fi. We did have our local telephone company, which is through Imperial County, did lay down within the year and a half some fiber optic lines on the reservation. But at this point, it only serves basically part of the east part of our reservation. And it has come up to, as well as other services that are available here, is the affordability of it for our members. And that was one of the concerns for our council as well as the affordability. Can our membership purchase, you know, these packages through this phone company or even other Wi-Fi services that are able to come out here? And then we found that no, a lot of our people cannot afford these packages, even if the less package that is available is still a concern. And then also, you know, again, also for our elders, and trying to get information out to them, especially when COVID hit in our area, it was very hard for us to try to get information out because we were not able to make those home visits and things like that and get flyers out or, you know, concerns. And so we tried to use our website to get information out to our membership. But again, there was some that, you know, were letting us know that, or letting the tribe know and our council members know that they did not have access to internet. They probably did have some, you know, with their phones, but again, the type of service they had they would run out of, whether it was minutes or didn't have enough, power to really access everything that they needed to in order to get the information we were putting out. So that's one of the things is, making sure it's, whatever is being offered to our people is affordable. And then also the speed of it. When I know that there's a couple of Wi-Fi services that are out here that our membership use. Sometimes it goes down, and so they're not able to access whatever they're trying to look for. So those are the things that our council is looking at and moving forward on my part to try to find those agencies or companies and so forth that we could work with in order to provide service for us or to assist us in providing service. One of the questions that one of our council members asked was if we were to work with major companies, whether it's AT&T, Spectrum, or whatever that might be available to us, how are we going to be able to, I guess, is it going to be a partnership or was it all going to be owned by that company? And we were finding that they were going to be owning all of the fiber optics and everything that goes with it. We did also ask, well, if you're going to be providing this service and then it needs to grow, are you going to be upgrading it accordingly? And we didn't really get a full answer on that at the time, which was kind of concerning to our council members. But we were also kind of looking too about if we were to go through them and have them have full control of everything, what were the prices going to be? And we wanted to try to see, of course, you want to be in line with what is being already, given out here in this area. Whether they're going to be around the same price and so forth. But again, we were seeing that it was going to be difficult for our memberships, owning or at least, buying into one of the packages to provide service to them. So our council was kind of they were kind of leaning towards maybe doing our own service. And if we could be affordable to our own membership and into the service unit that's here that provides healthcare for us. And because they go through one of the Wi-Fi services and things like that too. And they have difficulty at times with running some, their equipments and being on the internet and providing services sometimes because it would go down there as well. So we're seeing those things and we're just trying to figure out how to remedy that without, of course, it's going to cost money. Can the tribe do it on its own? Put up the money to do the service or go through these grants where we're seeing they're trying to make it easy, but there's still a lot of red tape. And then I think it was brought up earlier about permitting and so forth and right-of-ways. And then, so those were, things that we're all looking at, and so forth. And one of the things that I think is going to be an issue for us, especially if we were to try to do fiber optic lines, is getting the right-of-ways from our membership, because they do own land, and trying to go through their land. They already given right-of-ways to the telephone companies through for water lines, the roads, and things like that. And a lot of them right now are really hesitant about giving up some more right-of-way to lay down these, whether it's going to be laying down lines or whatever might be needed. So there is kind of some pushback in that aspect from some tribal members, not wanting to give that right away up or give some more, and things like that, even though that we're trying to look for services that will benefit the tribe as a whole. There's still some of that pushback, and we've dealt with that on many occasions, like I said, for other lines and roads and things like that have to go through. But I'm glad that I was able to kind of get on here, and then hopefully we can work with SCAG, because I think we are in the region in order to work with, I think it's Roland. So I'm hoping that maybe some more dialogue can happen between our tribe and SCAG in order to help us kind of get everything in line to what, what our tribal council really wants to bring for our membership.
Yeah, Roland, excuse me, Aaron, totally agree. SCAG can certainly work with you. We can leverage all the expertise that we're all kind of collectively putting together. But more importantly, thank you for sharing that very broad perspective. I think you just highlighted and touched on virtually every issue that everyone is going to face on some level. And I really just appreciate the way you've talked about it. There's a lot going on in terms of affordability and how to work with membership and the technology and the funding and the obligations and the agreements. I mean, it goes on and on. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to chew on. And I think one of the things that I want to shift here to the next few slides is talk about how the money that the federal government and the state is providing to do some of this infrastructure planning and the evaluation of needs can really assist you in this. You know, having just a few $100,000 so you can hire somebody to put together a strategy and a plan to get you to where you really want to go is going to be hugely beneficial. That way you can make good business decisions. You can bring something that's well put together to your council, really understand what the issues are, and get the kind of expertise that Matt was talking about, and from high quality firms that are really going to give you a fair and robust assessment. And then you can make some better decisions. And it could be that there are different answers for different tribes under different circumstances. So let me turn it over to Crystal and to Priscilla. They're going to provide a brief overview of exactly how to apply. And then we'll talk also about how we can provide further assistance in doing that. So with that, Crystal.
Thanks, Chris. Catherine, can we go to the next slide? Thank you. All right. So in the beginning, we walked through some of the various funding programs, and there's a lot. There's a lot of funding out there. We've highlighted here a few of the near-term funding programs that are now open and now available to you. Whether you're looking to really develop a plan, you're sort of at the starting point, you don't know what your options are, or you need to do that needs assessment, there's some dollars available through the Digital Equity Act program to develop a plan. So there's NTIA is expecting to allocate between $50,000 to $150,000 per tribe. As you can see, there's no match requirement. All that is requested of your tribal government is that you submit a letter of intent, and that's due July 12th. We'll go over what that process looks like in just a minute. If you need to do more robust planning, need to develop, a strategic plan or a business plan, network design, there's going to be more funding available through the PUC as well, through their technical assistance programs. And we'll share more information as that becomes available. Beyond the $150,000 earmarked from NTIA, this would be an additional $500,000 per tribe per year to do planning or develop some more robust needs assessments of what strategy you need to be thinking about to deploy robust broadband services on your tribal reservation. And on the infrastructure side, if you have a good understanding of what your need is and what your strategy is, there's also dollars to get you started on early implementation now. So those are the two in the middle. The U.S. Treasury Capital Projects Fund program that I mentioned in the beginning is providing up to $167,000 per tribe. This is funding that can go towards planning or capital programs. Again, no match requirement. All that is requested is a simple application through their portal due August 15th. And if you are looking for more robust infrastructure to expand that middle mile network that Brian, was talking about earlier just a few minutes ago, the NTIA's middle mile program is another really good opportunity to expand that infrastructure. The match is waived for tribal governments. You can, amplify your application by incorporating in-kind, but that's another program that provides up to $100 million per project. And those applications are due September 30th.
Crystal, I see Ray Taran's hand up.
Ray?
I raised it two different ways. So that was my phone one, and I've already done the online one. So I am off the hand raised.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. we'll go over the two that are due in just a few weeks in more detail, but I just want to stop here and see if there's any immediate questions and just offer up that SANDAG staff is available to answer any questions about any of these funding programs. We're going to be sending some follow-up information with these materials, samples to really help guide you through the process. And we want to offer either a more individualized discussion with each of your tribes or as a group. Let's meet again and see how we can help you go after some of these early funding opportunities. Next slide. With all of the funding that I shared, there's a lot of funding that can be used for a variety of things, as we mentioned, whether you're looking to do a needs assessment, more planning on the infrastructure end, or whether you're already looking to construct your network, conduct training. All of the funding programs can fund different use cases that can serve a lot of the different needs that we just heard a lot of you share about in the previous section. Next slide. So Priscilla is going to talk about the Digital Equity Act program. This is one that is providing significant funding to kind of jumpstart a lot of the planning.
Thank you, Crystal. So to just go over the specifically the NTIA Digital Equity Act program, funding can be used to develop digital equity plans. When we talk about digital equity plans, we're talking about plans that promote digital inclusion, which essentially help communities have access and use the technologies necessary to connect to the internet. Depending on demand, NTIA expects to allocate up to $150,000 per tribe, and plans should identify barriers, needs, develop a vision and solution strategies for overcoming these barriers. Next slide, please. So we've selected several projects that were awarded by an NTIA-like similar program. It's like a sister program. It's called the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program. And although these examples on the screen are not directly from the Digital Act program, we thought these would be like a good baseline or just frame of reference for y'all to look at. As you can see, there's funding to connect underserved households to the internet. There's funding to plan for infrastructure projects. There's also funding to support digital inclusion, to connect households directly to the internet, and even conduct studies that are based on digital literacy or just other studies like that. So a map of awarded projects will be posted on the chat box for you guys to access as well. So you guys can feel free to click on there as well. Next slide, please. Crystal, back to you.
And I think the Viejas example that Ray shared, the partnership with Cox is, Ray, if I'm not mistaken, being funded out of the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Award that you received.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
The Cox partnership is being funded through the NTIA funding award Viejas received, right?
Yes, it is.
So that's just a good example of how the NTIA's digital equity planning funds can really help serve as the starting point for assessing what the opportunities are that will then serve as a launching pad for all of these other funding programs that are coming down the pipeline. So it gets you ready for the construction dollars that will be available or other capital funding programs. As I mentioned, for the Digital Equity Act program, all that NTA is looking for at this stage from tribal governments is a letter of intent. We do have a sample of that letter posted here on this slide, and we'll send that out to everyone as a follow-up package to all of these materials. And the letter is fairly simple. It must just include a signature of an authorized tribal representative, description of your entity and how you will administer the activities and the kinds of activities you're hoping to pursue in support of the digital equity plan. So truly pretty simple, submitted on either online through their NTIA grants portal, or you can email it directly to NTIA or by mail. And as long as you meet the July 12th deadline, you are in the queue to receive upwards of $150,000 for planning. So great opportunity. And we are happy to continue working with any of you to develop the letter and make sure you guys can meet the July 12th deadline. Next slide, please. I'm going to skip over these, but we have a link of resources for you if you're interested in reading more on the funding opportunity. We have step-by-step instructions. NTIA has step-by-step instructions available, and all of these will be shared with you to kind of help guide you throughout the process. And then Priscilla, back to you on the coronavirus capital project.
Thanks. Just next slide, Kat. I don't know. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So I didn't previously mention this on the NTIA Digital Equity Act program slide, but that one for letters of interest are due July 12th. And for this coronavirus capital project fund program, applications are due August 15th. So both of these programs, the deadlines are, coming quick. So just wanted to highlight this one. So another program whose deadlines is quickly approaching is the U.S. Department of Treasury's Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund. So the Department of Treasury has allocated up to $167,000 for each tribe to receive for either planning or construction. The only caveat to this is that to receive the funding, you do have to apply in an online portal. And that, of course, projects that are funded have to relate to work, education, or healthcare. And so recently, the Department of U.S. Treasury also announced that funds for the program can be used in conjunction with other programs like the NTIA. So this is a really good advantage just for tribes to also leverage. Next slide, please. And once again, we have some examples of projects that have been funded by this grant presented on here. And as you can see, funds have been awarded that relate to rehabilitating community centers, deploy broadband facilities, purchase equipment, and even do planning as well. Next slide. And Crystal, you can finish it off.
Just like with the NTIA program, the U.S. Treasury has created a checklist and guidebook to show you how to apply for these funds. So we'll share those materials as well. For this funding program, all of the materials and the application must be submitted online through their Capital Projects Fund portal. The application is simple in that there's easy yes, no questions that you must fill in, but it is a lengthy process. I think U.S. Treasury said it would take upwards of 2 hours to complete the entire application. Next slide, please. So we have more resources here on what that application actually entails. We've pulled a helpful PowerPoint and webinar for those who kind of want to walk through the application. We'll also share a sample of the application so you know what is exactly required and asked of throughout the application. But simply put, they're looking for information on the kinds of projects you're looking to fund. Are you looking to fund equipment? Yes, no, check that box. Are you looking to, rehab a tribal center that, community members can access free Wi-Fi or computer? So simply checking some boxes and filling in some basic information on your tribal government name, your authorized representative. If you submit that by August 15th, you are again in the queue for an automatic $160,000 per tribe. Next slide, please. So we wanted to just summarize some of these near-term opportunities that we don't want you to miss out on. That digital equity letter of intent is due July 12th. We'll be sending all of these instructions and the sample letter in a follow-up email. Again, with the Capital Projects Fund application, that one's all through that online portal. We'll follow up with all of the informations. And we've also, to help ensure that we are here to help you in the way that you need us to, we developed a short survey where you can give us some feedback on how we can help you. Is it, with technical assistance, navigating these, tricky grant portals? Is there something that we can do to kind of help make this process a little easier and more streamlined for you? So let us know. We'll put a link to that survey in the chat. Chris?
Yeah, and I think what you're hearing, we're very excited because, many of us have done this type of work for transportation for decades. And with broadband, everything is moving like 100 times faster, all kidding aside. The money is flowing quicker. There's more opportunities. Both the state and federal government are super interested in making this a reality. And there are just these unprecedented opportunities to get the kind of money and technical assistance that you need to make some better decisions to serve communities more effectively. Anything we can do, we're here to help. And I say that on behalf of SANDAG, I say that on behalf of Caltrans, I also say that on behalf of my friends at SCAG, because we've all talked and we are all in, want to help as much as we possibly can. I also know there's multiple grant writers on this call, because you've told us you're grant writers. We'd love it if we could maybe even just do a grant writing little workshop and get folks together just to navigate this. It's not always easy to just get it all put together. But once the money starts to kind of flow, I think there's going to be more opportunities where we can then help you too, to select some consultant assistants and actually do the work that you want to get the money for. And the money is quite flexible. It can be used for so many different things. And if we need to be creative, we can assist you with that as well. Maybe you need devices or you need digital navigation to help some of the elders navigate the internet better. So, I mean, those are all kinds of conversations that we want to have with you. So the next slide has our contact information on it. Please reach out. This is our job. This is what we are paid to do. We want to assist you and really bridge the digital divide for all. So with that, I'll close unless there are any other questions and turn it back to the chairwoman. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's a lot of information. And like you said, Chris, a lot of excellent opportunity for us. So if there are no questions or comments, well, actually, are there any questions or comments at this time?
Madam Chair, this is Brian from Chemehuevi. I just wanted to thank you again for the blessing, for hosting, for folks at Sandag, folks at SCAG. Fully expect that we'll have some folks from Chemehuevi reaching out in a number of different directions. Putting this puzzle together has been the frustrating thing for me. I know for staff, probably for everybody. Those last comments about how do we put it all together, I think was a great way to summarize how I was thinking about it. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you. So thank you very much.
Right on, Councilman, and it's good to see you and hear you. If there are no other public comments, we'll go ahead and close the meeting. Thanks for your flexibility again. On the calendar, our next tribal working group is scheduled for September 28th because we meet every quarter. So please take a look at your calendar. Let me know if September 28th, it's a Wednesday. And I won't say it's going to be in person. We'll just play it by ear for now because I know COVID is increasing everywhere we go. So everybody be safe. Let me know if September 28th works. It's a Wednesday, 10 o'clock, could be virtual, could be in person, but I don't want to say, but just hold that date, please. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody then. In the meantime, stay safe. Anything else? September 28th. Meeting. We'll be in person. I don't know about that. We won't say that. Okay. Well, thank you all. I appreciate you. Sandag, thank you. Everybody, Chris, Crystal, Antoinette, Tueri, thank you all. Priscilla and Tribal Nations, everybody have a wonderful day. Get some lunch. It's afternoon. So take care.
Thank you.
Chairwoman.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.